Yeah, films. We watched some films. Now let's talk about those films.
So we are talking about Ginger Snaps. It is from the year 2000, which I think is hilarious. We don't often cover films
From the
this
year
old.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 22 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Oh
And
my God. Wow. Ouch. Gabe.
yeah, I'm sorry, but it's like that's real. This is real. My
Wow.
sister was born in 2000, so I'm like, this is the worst ever. But it, I because of it being in 2000, I missed it because I was too young.
Yeah,
I was
I
like
definitely
9,
missed it as well. Yeah. This
so
is my first
I
time
wasn't
seeing it.
pubertying.
Hmm.
I was so it wasn't so, and I wasn't like at 9. I was actually really afraid of horror movies, so I wouldn't have been excited about it. It wasn't until like 11 that I was like into it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't even hear
um,
about it until we had our podcast, and then I saw it in horror Twitter. I didn't
yeah,
know it was a movie.
and then people really love it,
Yeah.
right? It is like a cult classic in the horror world. So I'm glad that we got to cover it because it's been on our list for a very long time,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't figure out a reason, or like we just didn't have an opportunity to talk about it
Yeah.
until now. Um, so Ginger Snaps from 2000, all those years ago, is about two death obsessed sisters, outcasts in their suburban neighborhood, must deal with the tragic consequences when one of them is bitten by a deadly werewolf, and it's directed by John Fawcett, a werewolf. And let's talk about it. Hell is a teenage girl. Oh wait, no, that was the other episode.
Yeah.
It was last week. That's Jennifer's body. But Hell is still teenage girls, it turns out, and these ones are furry,
Yeah.
not furries, just furry.
Yeah. They have the
So
hairs.
don't get excited. Where Jennifer's body had gruesome teeth, repressed queer girls, boy murder, and hot Megan Fox, Ginger Snaps has extra nipples, furry scars, excessive dog murder, and hot Catherine Isabel, which you might recognize from American Mary,
Yeah.
which we covered right like pretty recently after we covered Jennifer's body.
Yeah.
When we were doing New Year, New Me, we did body modifications,
Hmm.
and there she was. So it's very funny. I'm
Yeah.
finding
Full circle. Full circle.
a lot of connections from when we first discovered this. So Ginger Snaps follows two sisters, Ginger and B, or Bridget, who are not your average teen girls. They're edgy and emo, and they have a signed suicide pact and are absolutely over everything. God, no one understands them.
Yeah.
And but like in the ways that like as a young person you're like exactly.
Yeah.
And the movie starts by showing us just how much of an outsider our protagonists are. They're not interested in boys or drugs or even becoming women, because we find out that both Ginger and B have yet to have gotten their period despite being in high school. um, B is 15
Yeah.
and Ginger is 16. So they're pretty close, and that's pretty old to not have your period.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like scared. I was like, are they okay? But they're also obsessed with death, having gone so far as to pose in a multitude of suicide photos for a class project, which greatly upset their instructor and also just annoyed all of their fellow students. But then Ginger abruptly gets her period, and it's here that things start to change for the sisters, because you're becoming somebody new.
Yeah.
She is maturing, and so she's leaving her sister behind. But it's more than that, because this is a horror movie
Yeah.
about werewolves. So it really seems like a typical angsty teenage girl film, if not for the excessive dog murders. Because
So much dog murder. Yes.
there really is. It's if you are worried about that, like it's not like it's still like silly gore. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't seem that like realistic, but if dog murder upsets you, you don't need to watch this.
Yeah. You probably won't
Um,
like it.
so it turns out that all throughout their small, humble suburban town, neighbors' pets have been found grotesquely torn apart. And so they think some kind of animal is getting to them. And from that, these girls have a plan for revenge where they're going to stage the death of their nemesis's dog.
Yeah.
Nemesis dog. And on their way to cover the dog with corn syrup and red dye number 9, they find the dog already dead, and his body is still warm. It is then that Ginger is attacked by a creature we learn later is a werewolf. She's brutally mauled in the woods and then lacklusterly saved by her sister. It was like the most like it's like a piece of like wood from like a tree, and she's like, get off of her.
Yeah.
I was like, I was texting Kat, like, if you were being attacked by a wolf, I would be a little harder about it.
Yeah.
Like, get off. But she's like, no, stop. Ginger, no. Your sister is being mauled alive. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, do nothing or do,
Yeah.
like commit to one of these.
To one of the sides.
Tone in the middle here. Ginger is shook, but quickly finds that she's okay.
Yeah.
Actually, at first she's just like, oh man, like I'm messed up right now.
Yeah.
And then she's just healing. And in the wounds that she had afflicted from the wolf, there's hair growing in strange places. At one point, she says to her sister, "I can't have hair on my tits, B. That's effed." And I was like, another really amazing line from like a teen gore slasher. I can't have hair on my tits. Love it. I was like, I feel that. Ghouls have actually covered werewolves before. In fact, we covered them right after we covered Jennifer's body the last time.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't us. We actually invited two close friends and now partners to host that episode, as it was titled Monstrous Men.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel like we wanted to talk about men puberty because we didn't go through it. So luckily, we'll talk about lady puberty because we did.
Yeah.
The werewolf has most often been a character symbolizing puberty, and our lovely alternate hosts went through that pretty thoroughly in discussing like the ways in which it's very obvious about puberty in all the different ways, like teen wolf, or I was American wolf. I don't even know.
Wolf
I don't watch a lot of wolf. Yeah, not a lot of wolf content besides being human and Underworld.
Yeah.
I think
I haven't watched either of those. So.
Twilight, I guess.
Yeah.
But we won't talk about those wolves.
I do have a lot of glitter on me.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not that. It's not Twilight.
Yeah. Although I was a team Jacob, so just fun. This film is definitely still the werewolf equals puberty kind of comparison for sure, in that your body is going through changes.
Yeah.
Hair is growing in weird places, emotions and impulses that you can't control, and more. Puberty is honestly just the worst.
Yeah.
And with Ginger Snaps, we have the added bonus of this transformation being about a girl's puberty experience specifically, because we have extra struggle. Men have nighttime, and they get wet dreams, and they have succubus instances, and they get hard in the middle of the day, and they're like, I don't know why my body is just this way, the pants are too tight. Ladies have this whole issue that just never goes away until
you die.
until we're old, and then we're like, okay, cool. So when Ginger begins bleeding in a very alarming way, it's brushed off as heavy flow.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, like some people just have that. Don't worry about it. The full moon, well, it's called moon sickness, hun. Brush it off. B mentions even in the beginning how Ginger may have been attacked by a bear because of her period, saying the scent attracted them. And didn't they used to like send women away off into the woods during their monthlies because they were like, we need to protect the.
You say used to, but that's like a thing that does still happen. Like not here necessarily, but
they
like
send women away.
Yeah. I don't have specific examples, but I know that it does exist, like with certain religious things. Like you go away. I mean, you don't like leave the town, but like you hide, like you are not out and about. You're like the bleeding one, go away, go forth.
Like I get it, but also like you could send me away during that time. Like I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to hang out with them, so I'm down. I'm down to be somewhere else for a whole week by myself. I get my own little cabin in the woods, hanging out with the bears. Heck yeah. I'm here for it. I'm here.
Yeah.
Ginger's transformation includes a little tail that just keeps on growing, and it's at that point when B discovers the tail. The cat was like, "Okay, this film is weird. This film is
Yeah.
gonna be weird now."
Well, because I was like very much like, what are you doing?
Because she was like checking on
What
her.
are you doing? And then like and then it's also just like, wow, what a tale that is. They really show it a bunch, and it was a
Yeah,
lot.
as it's like growing. It reminded me. I want to say like Shallow Hal or another problematic film of that time, like the Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo. One of those, there was a character, and I want to. I'm not gonna say who I think it is because I don't remember, and someone's gonna yell at me. But there was a character who had like a tail,
Yeah.
like, and it like extended from like their spine, kind of in that same spot. So when I saw it, that's immediately what I thought of was like that little
Okay.
guy's like little tail, and so it's just like ooh, ew. But it grows, and then it's like skin. It's not furry, so
Yeah.
you just like a flesh tail, which is really gross. And then on top of that, she gains extra nipples.
Yeah.
There's like this whole scene where she's like in like a crop top kind of thing, and she has extra nipples, and like they're clearly different because their boobs are still boobs, and then she's got extra nipples because she's a dog. And then she eventually becomes an extra from Buffy the Vampire Slayer visually. She isn't a vampire, she's still a werewolf.
Yeah.
And she has lots of hair. She's got the the sharp ridged thing, and she's got cool hair. She's got like a streak of white in her hair at first, but then it becomes all white, and she's like really creepy looking. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But more than her obvious werewolf changes, Ginger is a woman now. She
Yeah.
begins to take an interest in boys and drugs, which I guess comes hand in hand with becoming a woman. And she no longer wears her oversized jacket, but instead walks freely, confidently, through the halls as herself, just now hot.
Yeah.
She's always been hot. She just didn't know because she didn't think about it. Because it doesn't matter.
One of those like early 2000s/90s moments where you take off your glasses and take your ponytail out, and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's a different person. It's
Like, wow, she really is all that.
yeah, it's that. It's 100%.
That's the name of the movie for everyone. Another teen movie, you know what I'm saying? So this film is 100% about puberty, for sure. And as on the nose as much of the humor around puberty and werewolves is, it somehow evolved past satire into a genuine horror film about the connection of two sisters and the oppressive world around them that sought ownership of their maturing bodies. I watched an amazing video by Scaredy Cats on YouTube titled "I Was Wrong About Ginger Snaps," and was happy to see I wasn't the only one seeing the charm of this film. But as a host over at Scaredy Cats, and I will tell you, there's always more than meets the eye in any film.
Yeah.
So Ginger Snaps is a heartfelt story about two sisters and lots of gruesome murder. Bee and Ginger used to do everything together. In fact, after a dinner time quarrel that results in Ginger stomping off, Bee makes to leave after her, and her mom is like, "You're not attached at the wrist, you know."
Yeah.
Because pretty much everything they've done has always been together. They were even going to die together.
Yeah.
They signed a pact. Like they exist in their own little world in their bubble. So when Ginger starts doing things the girls had previously deemed uncool, and beneath them even, a rift opens between them. When Ginger begins eating boys, mostly out of some conscious need to protect Bee, the rift grows bigger. Ginger loves her sister, and in being shoved into this new maturity where her body is no longer her own and is no longer in her control, she is doing what she can to save Bee from the same fate. She's now been on the other side where she sees that boys see her body before they know who she is and decide what her worth is.
Yeah.
She is wary of all men, assuming that they mean to rob B of her purity and innocence.
Yeah.
And like Jennifer and Jennifer's body, her body has been stolen from her and transformed into something monstrous. Her confidence and sexuality are an evil tool. All these two girls have ever had was each other. And though it's not exactly the healthiest relationship, remember the suicide pact and the
Yeah.
fact that they just like it's really toxic, like codependency. It's a bit reminiscent of Jennifer and Needy without the sexual attention, at least most of the time.
Yeah.
Because there is a point in the film in which Ginger feels that in her transformation, she is so far from who she was that she's not even Bee's sister anymore. And for a moment, it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it was a little like, what are we? Whoa, hold on. Like, this is drawing a line, drawing a line. But it was really just like that instinct to protect her has grown like so far primal that it's like totally wiped out the fact that they are like what their connection used to be is
Yeah.
transformed into whatever it is now.
Yeah.
But unlike Jennifer's body, the boys in this film are mostly the worst. Ginger decides to unleash some sexual energy with a jock and douche boy named Jason, and it gets weird when she bites him and tries to eat him. But instead, he becomes a werewolf too.
Yeah.
She does not eat him. We were like very worried, and it was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But she contained herself. She didn't pull a Jennifer. But what's more interesting here is actually how Ginger reacts to that situation. She isn't upset that she almost ate a boy, and not in a good way, or that like that she like lost control of herself in that way. Like
Yeah.
she's not even kind of phased in that. But more that the fact that they hadn't had sex, but he was going to tell everyone that they did anyway. And she is so aware and upset at the patriarchal society for catering to his lens and needs, right?
Yeah.
Because like that was what was more important to her. It's like one, he like because I was expecting her to be like, he's gonna tell everyone I tried to bite him and I'm a dog. Like, you know, I mean, he's just gonna tell them that I'm a monster, like I'm a literal monster. And instead she's like, no, he's gonna tell everyone that we had sex and we didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is that what you're so stressed about? And I was like, oh right, because the werewolf is not even it.
Yeah.
The werewolf is just symbolic of what's actually happening right now. But there is one male character that I did enjoy, which is a lovable, charming drug dealer. Well, he's only selling pot from what I could see.
Yeah.
Who quickly takes to the occult theory and offers to help Bee in her quest for a cure. And I absolutely loved how he doesn't treat her in an uncomfortable way. He doesn't become
like a love interest.
Excuse me. Yeah, he doesn't become a love interest for either of the girls. And when he's confronted by a spiraling and overprotective Ginger about his close relationship with Bee, that's like blossoming because of their shared theories. She reminds him that B is only 15.
Yeah.
And he quickly lets her know that he doesn't see her like that. And he even, after Ginger leaves, lets B know that he does not see her that way.
Yeah.
He's like, you are a child. This is strictly because I think you're a werewolf and I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah.
And he never goes back on his word, which I think is even more important. Because it's one thing to just be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to write the story where he would eventually fall for her in some way, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
So like in Jennifer's body, I was pretty miffed that Needy's boyfriend made out with Jennifer. Even if his like heart wasn't in it, he was like doing it.
Yeah.
And it takes entirely too long for him to be like, nah, this ain't it.
Yeah.
Like he was it like even like half-heartedly, he was still doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember both of us being like, why?
Yeah, like there was
There's
no
reason
or like big motivation for it. It was just like kind of
Yeah.
like gross.
Yeah.
Like it was like, why? Like you literally actively talk about how much you don't like this person. And yet
Yeah.
you're still going along with it because she told you something that why are you even believing her that that's something that
Yeah.
like why is your view of your actual girlfriend so low that like you don't even like think to question it? You're just like, yeah, I'll make out with her friend. Why not?
And it's just like, you know, the kind of the thesis of the whole thing is like he hated Jennifer, but he didn't really care enough about her. He only saw her as whatever her body was. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
arguably, like,
he was
maybe the
the
same for Needy.
yeah. Oh, absolutely the same
Yeah.
for me. So everyone only justice for Jennifer.
Yeah.
Um forever. But when in Ginger Snaps, actually, there's a scene where Ginger throws herself at Sam. And it's like some attempt to use whatever she has to regain some semblance of control. And he's pretty quick to turn her down.
Yeah.
Like that make I was like all of like 5 seconds before he's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Like, and it's with Ginger, who is the older of them and has already like kind of expressed that she has like sexual needs and is kind of exploring that. So there's to some degree like if this is a case of you just trying to figure yourself out, sure. But he's like, that doesn't seem like what this is. So I'm going to say no, because
Yeah.
this doesn't seem healthy or like you're really consenting and it feels manipulative.
Yeah.
Which was so wonderful. He was a great character. And I never thought, like, one, I didn't think I would like a boy in this film.
Yeah.
But the drug dealer and one who was just like he was pretty cool from the beginning.
Yeah.
He was also pretty hot. The last character I want to mention though is their mom
Yeah.
because I think she's a wonderful human. I loved her the minute I saw her adorable mom sweater with the cornucopias on it,
Yeah.
like for Thanksgiving. I was like, "Do you see the sweater? She's amazing. What a great mom!" And she's like typical film mom, where she's like being just out of touch with reality, but still all up in your business.
Yeah.
There's like the scene where like Ginger is like acting very suspicious, and B is just like, "Well, she just like she thinks you're so cool." But she was
She thinks it's cool that like you don't like push too much. You let us
yeah.
figure stuff out on our own.
Yeah, that was the line, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, like, "You give us our space," and she's like, "I do." It's like, "No, you don't. You've never given them space." But she was just like, "I'm a cool mom."
Yeah.
She, like, makes a cake for Ginger when she gets her period. It's so uncomfortable. But she's just, like, such a mom, right? And
Yeah.
I think, like, she genuinely really loved her daughters and is
Yeah.
incredibly desperate to understand them. Like, even, like, when they, like, are staging like, someone died and they are staging it to look like one of their suicide photo shoots instead. The mom's just like, "I
Uh-huh.
told you not to do that in the house." And like
Yeah.
she laughs off like they find fingers in the, the backyard and she laughs it off like, "Oh, they got you," because they're always doing their little gory stuff. But it's never like, "Oh, they're like doing that stuff. It's so gross and I can't believe them. They're weird." It was like, "Oh, that's just them expressing themselves and they're weird and I love
Yeah.
them." I was just like, what a great mom. Which, like, already I thought she was wonderful. But when she discovers how naughty Ginger has been, including the murder of a fellow student, she still doesn't really judge. In fact, she assumes that Ginger did that to protect B because B had been bullied by that character. And she doesn't know that Ginger's
Yeah.
a werewolf, so she doesn't know that would be the cause for it. She just thinks, "Oh, my daughter reacted in a way to protect her sibling." And that's not something to be upset about. Like, I mean, yeah, upset for murder, but like for all the reasons to murder, that's not a bad one. And
Yeah.
she immediately lets B know that she is going to burn the house down and escape town with just the three of them, leaving their nothing of a father behind because he
Yeah.
didn't really matter. And she decides to take full responsibility for it, knowing that that's what the world will think. Because essentially, that's the role of the mother. Just as the evil, emotional, and sexual werewolf is the role of the new woman, she is responsible for what happens to her kids, not her husband. She is responsible for what happens to them and what they become. Society has already put us all into these boxes, and we just need to learn to navigate them. Um, Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It's a very fun, campy adventure, and I don't mind the constant puns or the clear "this is puberty" connections. I didn't even roll my eyes once. I was like, "Oh, that's funny. How charming!" It was really just like,
Yeah.
Puberty again. You see? Because
Yeah, look at it. Look at make
she's
the
bleeding
connection there.
because she's injured,
Yeah.
but they think it's her period. It's funny. Um, to be honest, I am a sucker for any late 90s, early 2000s girl boss films. I'm looking at you, Jawbreaker and Sugar and Spice. So I knew I would be hooked when I saw the trailer for it. I was like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's also just a genuinely good horror film, especially like a camp cult kind of take. The effects are very silly and fun. And there's also great suspense that ends in relief or pain. Like it goes on. It's a movie that keeps going. And you're like, is it done yet? And then something else happens. And you're like, what am I supposed
Yeah.
to feel? The full werewolf transformation was really great. I was like crying tears of laughter. There's like, because it's this whole like wolf like puppet thing, and it does this really silly jump. And the
Yeah.
scaredy cats people noticed it too. And if you watch their video, they have the little clip of the jump because I lost it when I saw that. I was like, oh no. And I'm like, I love when there's like really goofy like props in a horror movie. And when I saw
Yeah.
that, it gave me a new career goal, which is that one day I want to star in a horror film that finds me as some terrible creature puppet for the last 20 minutes, just so I can point at that and go, that's me. Just like a weird puppet thing, like, oh, there's me. I was the
Look at
weird
me do
puppet.
it.
And like,
Yeah.
I'm not voice acting it. I'm not like controlling this puppet. It's just that in the world of that film, that puppet is me, and that's what I
Yeah.
want. So that's second goal to not being a final girl and just being killed really inventively. Like I want a
Oh.
really crazy death that's like, what? Her head popped off or something? That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's
I
all.
didn't know these were goals of yours. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I've always wanted that. I just want to like Samuel L. Jackson getting eaten by the
Oh my
shark
gosh.
in Deep
What a
Blue Sea.
scene.
Would love
Yeah.
that. In
You have to
the
be given like a really inspiring speech though before it
if I
happens.
did that, yeah. Well, no, even like literally any of the real like Final Destination, give me one of the really crazy deaths. I
Oh
want
my
to do
god. I
that.
still have like
Cut me in half.
visceral fear around the staple gun one.
Yeah.
It still haunts me. I like fear staple guns now. Or not staple guns, nail guns. I was
Nail
like,
guns.
why?
That's not how they
Why do we
work.
need to pressurize nails? Why?
But they don't work like that. You can't actually do that.
Just go right through
It's
the
only
brain.
when death is coming at you, and Tony Todd's like, "Well,
It's so stressed
yeah."
though. I don't care if it's not real. It's terrifying to me. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. This film is a really fun time though, and I love the mom. I agree. I feel like she is an example of what domesticity does to like powerful ladies, and then
Yeah,
like the way in which she's like, all right, we'll burn the house down, leave your dad, whatever. Like, cause like I just
it
thought
was really like
one, I
surprising.
hope to never have that relationship, like specifically, like I want to love the
Yeah.
person I'm with, but also like I totally was like, hell yeah, this is 100%, this is the best mom. She 100% should be doing this. And like, yeah, like that's a whole thing. Like society will blame women no matter what. Like the mom will be the reason for this happening. It's not like this way in which ladies in general get scapegoated for various things, and like her recognition of that I thought was
Yeah.
like really telling
Or even
and
just like
effective.
in parenting, right? It's just like men do the
Yeah.
bare minimum. They're like, "What a great dad," and then a woman like takes a break, and you're like,
Weaponized
"No."
incompetence.
Yeah.
Yeah.